Hello and welcome to Nollywood Film Club. I'm Mr. C of Iroko Critic. Hope you're doing well. We have a Netflix original for you, an epic to discuss. Not too much. Nothing too much to add here. I think it's a good one. It's a little long, so I'll just let you get into it. And I hope you enjoy Nollywood Film Club discussing House of Gar. On here. All right. Welcome to Nollywood Film Club. We do discuss Nollywood movies every Sunday, 6 p.m., or at least have a Nollywood conversation. We're going to be talking about a new Netflix original, I believe. I'm kind of not really even following like that again. I think it is a Netflix original. House of Gar by BAP. So it's been almost a month since we spoke about the last BAP movie, but a new historical epic. Um, Very interested to hear what our speakers will say. If you do want to discuss with us, you can request to be a speaker or comment underneath the space, and we'll read your comments out. We'll discuss what we like in the good. We'll discuss what we don't like in the bad. We'll disagree in the pushback and give our summaries at the end. Okay. Nollywood must change. Do you want to tell us some of the things you liked about House of God?
Hello, Vanessa. Is she here?
Vanessa's not here today, actually, so you're not really going to rub that one in. But you are wasting your time, though.
Um, I'm so glad because my enemies tried for me not to be here today, but I'm happy. I'm grateful to God for bringing me to this platform. so, so, what I like about House of God, yeah, I think I kind of like that. The actors in this movie, they are kind of good looking. We have pretty ladies. What's her name? The princess. She's pretty. They said she's pretty and she looks pretty. She's a beautiful woman. And I'm glad they didn't use a light skin as a pretty woman in this movie. Yeah, I kind of like that. Um, the the female characters, the queens, they look good. You know, they're okay. And the male characters too, they look good. What else do I like? I kind of like the use of. I think the theme color was brown, kind of. That's what I think. I don't know, but I kind of like the use of brown color, like the costume, the other things, like the main color. I kind of feel like it's brown. Um, and the use of juju. I kind of like the use of juju in this movie, even though some of the VFX was not really that good, but I kind of like the use of magic, all that. Um, and I noticed something too. I don't know, maybe they might not have thought about it, but when Guy had a stroke, Guy had a stroke, and they were trying to use magic, they were trying to use juju to cure stroke. I kind of really like that it didn't work. Like it didn't get back on his feet. He was unable to, recover from the stroke. So I kind of maybe that time people might not know what stroke is, and they are trying to cure stroke with you. So I kind of like that. The filmmakers might not have thought about that, but I kind of like that he didn't get back on his feet. So I was like, this guy had stroke, and you guys are trying to like manage stroke with Juju. Yeah. What do I like? I like the lead performance. What was his name? I forgot his name again.
Any
Yes,
branch.
Femi Branch. I kind of like his performance. It was. I wanted to say that Odunlade should come and look at performance. I know Odunlade is a good actor to some people, but there's a performance that when you are serious, you are serious. Femi Branch is a serious actor. This is how to play a king and a villain. What type of hero is this? Anti-hero. Yeah. This is how to play that character. Not the one you will be shouting, be doing like a mad person up and down. You know. So I kind of like his performance. Like this is an actor. This is an actor. Yeah, who's the performance that I like in this movie? I'm trying to remember. I think he's the only performance that stood out for me. Yeah, I kind of this guy too, Latif. Latif is good any day. He played his part well. I kind of like it. Yeah, even though we didn't see much of him, like we just anytime he just shows up and then they yell at him kind of. So I like his performance as that drunkard, stupid person. Um, like most of the performances are okay, not bad because okay, I don't want to talk about my bad because they didn't use the actors very well. So I can't grade the performances. Actually, I really can't grade the performances, but they were not bad. There was no like, oh, this is horrible. There was nothing like that. There were some bad performances, but they are not like bad. That's what I would say. They're not like bad. Yeah. So overall, this film is not bad for me. It was tolerable for me, but not as bad as when you say, "Oh, I can't continue. What's this rubbish?" Yeah, it was just okay for me. That's all I can remember for now.
All right. Okay. Thanks. Nollywood must change. I'm going to just run through it because we have a lot of speakers on here. All right. Oyinkon, do you want to give us welcome back? Do you want to give us the things you liked about House of Ga?
Uh, sure. Thank you. Life has been hectic lately. The only reason why I kind of watched this movie and I knew this movie was because of Elizabeth. And I know in other past something I've been saying what I like about this movie, right? I was going to give background, but I'm not going to give that. One, I think I think the story it kind of completed itself. So there is really not that much loose ends for people to really think about, or that is so glaring and obvious. Also, I think the story. I think the writer or maybe the director balanced the writer. I think the writer balanced a lot of different elements of the stories that they wanted to bring in. So I like that. Uh I think the performances are okay and good. And Flemmy Branch really was the actor for it because you could see him be be gentle with his sons and his children and his family and be harsh with his enemies. Um, that's a good thing. I think that this is a good popcorn epic and like this may sound like obviously what's his name? The director of Jazz is obviously a much better director than Babs, but they kind of make some of the same type of movies of like popcorn movies that feel good, maybe not too challenging about like the history of things, but they are good movies and like movies that you won't be like you won't be upset that you watch, right? So I think BAP is that type of filmmaker. I think this is our best work. Yeah, this is our best work. Um, the costuming is mostly okay, mostly good. There's mostly good. The music mostly good too. So I think it's a good movie. It's okay. There's really not much to be said, and I think it does so much better than most other um Yoruba epic movies that have come out lately. So those are the good things I have to say. So some of the technical work are okay too. I actually kind of like some of the technical work, except for the even that is okayish. It's not the best, but it's okayish. It's serviceable. It does what it's supposed to do. So it's like it does what it's supposed to do. It's pretty nice. Femi Branch does a very good performance. All the people did well. It's not bad. Mm. There are some things here and there, but it's not bad. That's it.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Oyinka. Next, we have Olana. Do you want to tell us some of the things you liked about House of God?
Yes, I would like to give a special shout out to the casting director, Omo. so many pretty people. Face card won't blind me. I'll just turn here, face. Yeah. Even when Mike was vomiting with his perfect cheekbones, like it made so much sense. I'm really big on just putting people that look good enough for me to at least be slightly interested. And everybody here was even Latif in his drunken state, he did not. Please, did you guys see Aboni? It was like the first shot of Aboni when they showed her, like her clavicles, her arms. I was like, now wow, this is the model. Like everybody just looks so good. Yeah. So shout out to the casting director for giving us multiple face cards. Like even the Waka Pass people were giving face. I mean, Sheon Akindele face. Anyway, shout out. That's how you cast. Thank you for casting properly. Another thing I really liked, they weren't just giving face cards. They put in some effort. Femi Branch, exceptional as usual. Like it's not even it's Femi Branch, but Zainabu, very good performance as well. I really enjoyed watching her. Mike Afolarin, cheekbones on point. Acting, actually, I don't even. I think this is the first Yoruba movie I've seen Mike in. He actually put in a decent effort. Like he was very emotional when he needed to be. I didn't understand the whole I would die for Abonion thing because it's not my style of whatever. But I really enjoyed his acting. And another person, the acting was like, when I say he wasn't as prominent as some others, but there was the guy that played Olauton. I enjoyed him too. Very, very. No, when the face cards were coming, they were coming with some acting chops too. So I really appreciate that it wasn't just a face I was looking at and I was wondering, so this one is just here for pretty privilege. So the acting was decent enough. The face cards were looking good. The outfits were good. I think this is one of my better movies for the year. Quite possibly because I've not watched most, but quite possibly my favorite like epic in recent times. Yeah, quite possibly my favorite epic in recent times. Most things went correctly. Some things, but most things went correctly. The storyline was not a okay. I did have a how did this happen moment, but for the most part, once again, most of the happenings made sense. So yeah, I really like it. And even if they had acted rubbish through most of it, I would have been very okay with just the face cards. So congrats to everyone involved.
Wow. I don't know whether Alana was concentrating on this film, to be honest, at this point. But anyway, we move. That's okay. That's okay. Next, we have Elizabeth. Elizabeth, do you want to give us the things you liked about House of God?
Hi guys. Okay, so first I want to say that this is my first epic in a while because I really gave up on that part. But first, this is probably one of Bab's my favorite Bab's production, and that's saying a lot because I usually have have some teeth with our production, but this is, I think BAP is really growing. I love her cinematography here. I like the production design. I think it was intentional. I liked that the setting feels more natural. I think that was a really great job that it did. Even interaction of the villagers, you're not confused about what's going on. It felt there's a very natural setting to it that I thought was well done. Art design also, I think it was great. There was a lot of liberties taken with the costuming who allow, but I think there was intentionality in there because I saw how intentional it was. You can see that the upper class had on ashoke. You can see the middle class, or I don't want to say lower class, had the regular people had the cotton, and you can also see the sleeves wore sacks. And I thought that was very intentionally placed in explaining the class differences in how people dressed. I also agree with Nollywood must change when he said like there was a brown theme thing going on, and I saw it too, and I thought it was great. There's some of coercion there when you look at the production itself, the mud house, the even in costuming, everything seemed to make perfect sense. Even the chiefs when they wore their own white and even the red. There's some form of synergy going there with colors. So I thought that was great. I like Bab's creativity here. Again, that I think that this is one of our a favorite that I've seen, at least visually. Even when I do agree with the CGI, I thought it was really, good at time, great job. There's a lot of CGI animals going on here, but you can see, where the direction here is. A creativity, and then that scene where they were narrating Majiobi going to like 3 towns to get people to fortify him. I really love that. And you can see Bab's theater background come in there. I thought that was a really nice choice to depict how fortified himself, and he had the herbalist or medicine men dancing behind him, and I thought that was lovely. I really like. I had to rewind it to watch it again, so I like that. And then this cinematography wise, really guys, as in even might not believe that I'm talking about BAP like this. She's done a great job. I didn't like the old linear theater thing going on in the last movie that we watched. That was familiar, not like La Pasi, but I mean I question it. But in this one, there was something she did often that I really love. She has a thing for silhouettes, and I don't know if anybody caught that. The sunset, sunrise, even moonlight. You can see she has a thing for silhouettes, and every time she portrays silhouettes on the screen, there's beauty in that frame, and you're like, at least there is actual intention going there. So kudos to Bab for that. Also, so back to the story wise. For one, there is a story here. We'll question motivation as other things, and we'll question things later. But here, story wise, oh, it wants me to go, but I will finish. Story wise, there's something here, and then the actors. Somebody mentioned the casting. I thought that was great, especially for the beautiful faces. Um, that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, thanks, thanks, Elizabeth. Wow, okay, this is where we are. We're pouring so much praise on Bat. This must be a serious product. All right, Otas, do you want to tell us your feelings for House of God that you liked, the good feelings?
Um, so I liked a lot of the world building that went into this. I liked the way they used crowd and people a lot, as well as different scenic spaces, like the water area. I can't remember the name of the village they were going to, where he was going to train. Anyways, that area. I thought they had a lot of good setups and they used the spaces very well. I liked a lot of the costuming as well. Earlier on, the Chiefs had on this like gold lined kit that was so gorgeous. Um, I liked Bashar's throne and palace. So I guess that's art. It was very well done. Um, I think that it completed the story it wanted to tell. So I could see where it was going. The CGI was so fun. You could tell that someone had fun at Microsoft Paint. So, um, Agboyi was gorgeous. Lots of gorgeous people. Zainab and her CGI breasts also gorgeous. So there were a lot of gorgeous women in this, and I appreciated sort of the diverse range. But yeah.
All right, thanks, thanks, Otas. And I think we have Uti next. Uti, do you want to tell us some of the things you liked about House of God?
Okay, so I'll be pretty quick. I think once like the movie picked up, I think like halfway into it, I appreciated how simple the storyline was. It was for me was a very like, oh, this is what happened and this is what happened. And I like that because I feel like it's very, very easy for Nollywood to add like a lot of Jara to their movies. And I was like, okay, I like that it was very simple. And then I realized it was also a biopic, and I did appreciate that. I think this is one of the more fun biopic that I've seen, maybe because of the story, but I did enjoy this biopic. I could tell what they wanted to do with it. And yeah, I think that was mostly. I really appreciate the simplicity of the storyline, but that's mostly it.
Okay, fair. Thanks, Thanks, Uti. Emmanuel, do you want to tell us some of the things you liked about House of God?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed the movie House of God, and it's because I after watching Formula Ransom Kuti, I finished watching House of God today, and I will come to that resolution like which one for me because I enjoyed watching FRK. And the first thing I when I saw House of God, because I actually didn't know the storyline and all that, but the fact that I did a stream back then in school, we touched the Oyo Empire, everything about the Oyo Empire, the conflict between the Are Ona Kakanfo and the Basharu, which was later depicted, that was close to the epilogue of the movie. So the thing is, I actually enjoyed House of God from character interpretation. Like most characters, they interpreted their role very well, and you can actually see that the movie is A-list actors studied one for that matter from Funke Akindele to Basharon himself, that's Femi Branch, to Dele Odule, to Tony Abraham, to other characters who brought their A game. More like they ate and they left no crumbs. More, they understood the role, they understood what they were coming for, and they ate it to the last bit of it without even leaving any crumbs. So I was looking for Rotten Tomatoes. Like, this movie can just be so nice, like it can be so perfect like this. It's nothing close to. I won't say it's close to perfection though, but it's just there. Then looking at the cinematography is on point. I know if I would commend this person, Bap, Bolanle Austen-Peters, for her movies. Her cinematography is on point. I don't know who is our cinematographer, but she's deft, good on that. From movies like Man of God to Collision Course to this one, FRK, now to House of God, she's good. Then talking about lead characters and supporting characters, they were not doing too much. The lead characters actually understood the role. The supporting characters understood the role. And I saw somewhere that, okay, why not create this conflict or confrontation between Tony Abraham and Funke Akindele so that they can give us that drama. I know these persons they are contenders normally in they are contenders normally in the film industry, and some persons were looking forward to that conflict. Well, even with or without the conflict, they did their role. They just did their thing. Not too much talk. Once the screen time is on Funke Akindele, she kills the role. Once the screen time is on Tony Abraham, she kills the role. Then going to emotion and resolution, I think this particular part got me with Oyemekun. I think that's the youngest son of Bashorun. I don't know if he's the youngest son, but it, Oyemekun, that's Mike Afolarin. He did very well, and you can see that part where he before he killed Ibrahim Chata. That's the Sasa Elenium. That's the Bashorun's personal herbalist or medicine man. Let me put it that way. You can see how pained he was that he killed Agboyi to revive his father's paraplegic state. So that part for me was I could feel the emotion, more like this internal struggle. You're trying to let people know that okay, this is this love. I love this girl like with all my heart. After I actually withstand the first part where she was being married to my uncle, and now you killed her to revive my father. How dare you? Why did you do that? So we actually from that lens, I could picture how powerful that emotion is. I resonated with him a lot. Then going to comic relief and humor, like someone said earlier, I didn't get the name. I think it's Olana. I don't know, but she said the place where they were trying to, Bashar was trying to get up when he was paraplegic already. He was trying to get up, calling on Zainab to help him get on the bed and was like, this kind of noise that he was making actually was very funny. The humor on point, finding face characters, the persons we're talking about, find face characters, yes, too. They were fine. I thought I saw Zainab because the beauty of Zainab actually caught my face first, then other characters. So I don't want to take, spoken a lot, I've spoken a lot, but yeah, I've spoken a lot. So in all of this, I think the movie is dope. It's dope.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Emmanuel. And Dawn, if any, I'm surprised no people in the comment section and the list who are listening, please share your likes. We'll read them. I also want to know. I'm interested in knowing what you guys, the things that you liked about House of Girl. And last but not least, before I guess I do my Sabalo brand with Tosin, please share some of the things you liked about House of Girl.
Okay, thank you very much. The story actually is one that is very dear to my heart, right? Because I'm also from Ibadan, and aside from what I've sort of like read in history books and all that, I could really sort of like relate with quite a number of things in the story. I think first thing for me was actually how they aptly captured the history, of Oyo Empire and all that, the interplay in terms of, how Oyo expanded its empire, even as far as Dahomey, which is now Benin Republic, right? And you could even see the consistency in the story with what you've seen with the Woman King, right? Because Woman King was also kind of like, the story of the Dahomey warriors, right? So you could see the consistency with, with things like the wall paintings, the woman warriors that was training the king's last born, that was shipped off to the place, and some other things like that, right? So for me, right, it's actually how that's history about the Oyo Empire, especially how it's related with with its vassals and the conquered state, so I think that's actually very, very spot on. Another thing I love about it's how you see the hierarchy that is that was portrayed among the king's wives. So you could really see that the first wife, which is the Ayuba, played by Funke Akindele, is the most revered, right? Like you could really see the respect and the even in themselves, saying from and all that, so you could even tell that she also has that first access, that privileged access to time, as the first wife. So that is actually a very, very
Sorry, Tosin, you seem to be
respected.
breaking up.
She might not be the
Could you go off and come back? I'll bring you back. But yeah, you're breaking up. All right. Thanks, Tosin. Just come back up and I'll bring you back up to speak. But in the meantime, Dawn, do you want to give us some of the things you liked?
Yeah. So quickly, I think a lot of people have said some of the things I'll say, but I would just like to say I think the movie was performance driven and majorly by Femi Branch. I think his performance really held the movie together because every scene he was on, he was just really doing something different. Whether it was, when he got the is it disease, when he was paralyzed basically, or when he was angry with his chiefs and stuff like that. It was really performance driven, and I think generally everybody, all the actors, kind of did decently well. So I like that about it. Then also I think I liked pockets, and I say this with caution, pockets of some of the fights, pockets. So not all of the fight, but there's some scenes that, wow, like especially for example, there's a scene towards the end where the one of the sons was fighting, and I almost asked, is this person a stunt person? Because his fighting felt more realistic than every other person's fighting. So you know, I just appreciate that. And then I think lastly, I think it's the simplicity of the story. And when I say simplicity, I don't mean that there aren't nuances, but just that it's about this person and this person wants this. We could just kind of at least follow through, unlike many films that we might not necessarily be able to follow from beginning to end. At least I was able to do that, and I really appreciate it. It seems like something minor, but if we I feel like it's something that I tend to appreciate more these days, because we watch a lot of films where we don't, so many plot holes that you don't even know, what you're watching at the end of it. So I think I really appreciate that. I think that's just it for me.
Okay. No, thank you. Thanks, Don. Appreciate your takes. And Rotimi, do you want to give us your the goods?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so first of all, I like the idea, the story. First of all, the best thing about House of Guys is the story. And I think that maybe from Bolanle's last project, based on these stories are basically adaptations of historical figures. I think that that has helped streamline what the stories are about. So the stories have meaning. And I think that like for me, what I saw in this stuff was almost like a guy this thing, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like Bashans, he was not satisfied. There's a saying that when somebody has two values of gold, he will still want another one. It was not enough for him to be the OMC, to have all his sons as ministers, to have their laughing under his control. He still wanted more and more and more, until that more eventually leads to his downfall. So I liked that the story itself, you can decipher some form of meaning and like a moral to the story. I like that the story had like multiple layers to it. When I mean multiple, like you have the thing with Michael Folarin's character, his youngest son, that had his love interest, that their own love stories on one side. You had the whole thing with the Funka Akindele's character with the Basharan's wives, with their problem with the Nupe witch, as they called her, and everything. You had also that whole thing with the power dynamics between him, the Council of the EMC, and how it was. If I had to describe it to somebody else that didn't understand the dynamics, I'd be like, they were like the House of Assembly, and their laughing was the president, and they were constantly, they could impeach the president, and he had the power to impeach the president, and he kept impeaching the president whenever he felt the president was not following his orders, or was not bowing to his whim, which it also shows that historically that's also a nice thing to show, that historically that the Yorubas had their own power structure before we even came to this modern democracy. So that was nice to show. I think that's why, like I said, the value of the story. There's a particular shot like where I think is the last Alafi, when they ordained the last Alafi, then the whole OEMC, everybody bowed down to him, and they're around him in a circle with the Alafi. I'm not sure if it's him or the Basham, but it was in the center, and all the other chiefs were bowing down to him. That was a beautiful shot. That was a lovely shot. I also liked I don't know his actual name. This guy that is Case Daniel's bodyguard. Like when you like show me that person and you have a duel, like if a fight with that guy, I'm like, okay, whoever is fighting this guy is in trouble. Even if it wasn't Michael Folarin's character, if it was any of his elder brothers, and they were facing that guy, it would still be like a scary fight. It almost gave me like Game of Thrones when this guy fought the mountain. Like this guy, I'm like, this guy he was huge and he was muscular for days. You understand? That was also nice. Is there anything else? Cinematography. I think that by now the Yoruba film epic has almost, for lack of, I'll say this in a good way, almost has a template. Like right now, because the more and more Yoruba epics are being made, there are certain things that you can look forward to. The settings, the art design, the costume. It's like the more it has become now a method onto how we can create these things, and at least you can see elements of improvements. This is probably the closest things to an Nicolakwa, and I'm going to say this very just comparatively, just because I see them having the same theme about when people have power, how they misuse it. So that's the only thing. But I like that the fact that like this has more of a message, has more of meaning than almost most of the Yoruba epics. Like in terms of the story, I understand what the story is about. I can tell somebody like, look, this is what happens when somebody starts misusing power. And it was nice. The VFX for me, I didn't really like. Let me not go to what I disliked, but I like that last part when he had the last arrow, that he fired at the last Oba, and which was also it was kind of funny for me because that's still what that was the height of the Basharan for me. Like, you knew that attacking this last Alafin will lead to your own, that he has already set up. My time? Okay, sorry. Yes, okay.
Just
Thank
round
you.
up your points.
No, yeah, I was just saying about, like, that just makes the point about the nature of Basharan's character. He knew that the Alafin had like a counter charm that if anybody attacks him, it will bounce back to him. But it was like in his pursuit that no, I must go after this guy. He fires that arrow, and that which leads to him getting crippled and everything. And I'm like, okay, that shows you the nature of his character. Then I also like the fact that his backstory onto why he was that way from his childhood, that when his brother was killed, that was his motivation for why he was going about all this. He was not just a blind guy converting power. It was almost like a spirit of revenge against those people that had power. So yeah, that's my goods.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Rotimi. I keep on trying to bring on Sir Ballo, but I don't know. Network is going off and on. Sir Ballo, can you?
I just saw the network operate this time. Can you hear me very well?
Okay, yes, I can hear you well. Yes.
Oh, okay. Or it could even be village people. So yeah, just to quickly wrap up what I was saying, I think how those hierarchical roles, amongst the Yoruba families, how it was established, right? I think that was also something that is very important. So the cultural perspective, how it was, right, in the ancient times, they really got it. They really got it right. It's very spot on. Another thing I love is the choreographing of the fighting scenes. Now, it's not, like perfect, but I think it's a step in the, it's like a step forward in terms of Nollywood generally. Nollywood actually, has very terrible, fighting scenes and all that. But I think they sort of like, got some part of the fighting scenes right. So I think that's also a very heartwarming thing to see, that we are gradually getting, how people fight, and trying to bring into our fighting scenes right there. So it's a very huge improvement. And I think the last thing for me actually also is the casting. The casting is very spot on. I think one of the speakers also has spoken to that about the fine faces and yeah. But aside from that, I think again in terms of the semblance that the Sons of God has within, I think you could really pretty much see that semblance, a bit, not that really profound, but you could still, there's a bit of semblance between God and his sons. Another thing also is the spectrum of emotions that God displayed, which was embodied by Femi Branch. I mean, you can see his ruthlessness with his enemies, even up to slaughtering, high chiefs of Oyo, Messi and all that. And you can also see the tenderness, when the son was killed, with the fight against Idi Al Farouk that was played by this Kiss Daniels bodyguard. So you can see that emotion coming out, like, so enemies, but he's also very emotional when it comes to his son. You see that doting father. I think thespians that can really, combine those two things in Nollywood, they are very, very rare. And I think Femi Branch really did an awesome job with that. Finally, on what I love is really about how, they also talked about the political structure of Oyo, because, there is also this thing that goes around that. So in Africa, Africans are barbarians, they don't have structure till the white people came. But you can really see that Oyo Empire has a parliamentary system of government going on, right? And they perfectly told that story, like through this Bashanuga. So you can see that you have the king, you have his chiefs, and you also have the Oyo Mesi, that is like the Senate, who actually serve they serve as check and balance, for whenever the king want to you can also see when a calabash was given to the first Alafin, that Ga was trying to exact his revenge against. Now, that is actually a very critical tradition, right, in Yoruba. Once a king is given the calabash, he's actually being asked to commit suicide. So you can really see that structure is actually there. Yoruba is not, the Yoruba race is not completely ruled by monarchy, right, or unchecked monarchy, right? You could really see that sophisticated system of government there. I mean, even before the white people set their foot on, on the lands with colonization and all that stuff. So I think for me, aside from other positives like the cinematography, which was very spot on and all that, those are the things I love about Ga, the House of Ga. Thank you.
Okay, all right. No, thank you. Thanks, Sabalo. Mrs. C isn't quite here, but she has sent in some of the things she likes. She said she appreciates appreciates the old Nigerian history-based stories. The beauty of the wet boy's love interest. This is Michael Fallerin's love interest, and some of the performances were all right. All right, should probably read it in a haste for just the three. Okay, the things I liked about House of Ga. I think it handles an ensemble cast very well. A lot of times when Nollywood is doing a film with so many stars, the amount of stars, even maybe not even as much as it has in House of Ga here, a lot of times they feel either pointless or the way they introduce them feels like they're showing off that they have a star-studded cast. So what I have in my head is the way the cameos in Blood Sisters were introduced, and then generally ensemble films, kind of more like Chief Daddy, where it doesn't feel like there's a purpose for all of the characters there. You could play out Chief Daddy with half the cast, and it would play exactly the same because they haven't got enough meat for all of the characters there. But this every sort of established actor that is giving here has something to do. They're actually given at least a little bit of a chance to shine, and I like that about the film. I thought the difference between the intention and versus execution was probably not too far off. I'll have my queries about that later, but I thought that was okay. People have talked about the casting. I agree with the casting. The casting was generally well done. It's not just even the finest. Like, I think there's like a pretty that you feel like doesn't really belong here, but not in this film. And even the Dahomey Warriors, I liked that. I liked the way they looked. They look like, these people actually do work out. And speaking about that, the choreography, the fighting there, again, like somebody previously said, it's not perfect, but it's probably as good as we've seen, especially in terms of elaborate in mainstream Nigerian films. I think this is up there. This is something that some people are probably going to disagree with, but the swords and the props, even though they looked fake, I liked that. I don't know. I'm not quite sure why at this point, to be honest. I felt more at ease knowing that they weren't fighting with real swords. Also, the whole thing did feel a bit camp. That's why it kind of works with bad. If you have not great CGI graphics, I think having sort of fakeish looking swords and all of that, I think that fits the world for me. Again, even though I know this is historical or whatever, but it did almost feel like Tales by Moonlight telling. And for me, those kind of props don't stick out as much as they would in something that would feel more serious. Somebody said, I think it was written to me that said this might be up there with Anikulakbo. For me, I think, but I don't like Anikulakbo. But anyway, I think this is the least worst epic for me that we've had. It's not quite as focused as Anikulakbo, but I think it just is less. The finished product is just better. The execution of what it was trying to go is better for me. Do I have anything else? The CGI isn't the worst. There's some CGIs that I didn't realize until a second take, and that's pretty good. Not everything, obviously, but there's one particular CGI which we'll discuss later that I actually didn't realize until the second take. And I think it was Nollywood Must Change talked about the grade or the coloring. generally, I also like the way it looked. It's not as pretty as Anikulapo, but I liked the way it was graded generally. It made sense for the world it was dealing with. There's a lot of other world things that I liked, but I think that's generally my thoughts about this. The things that I really liked about this. Okay. Let's go into the things we didn't like. Nollywood must change. Do you want to start? Nollywood must change. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. I was using my headphones, so I had to disconnect it. That. So, what I don't like about this movie, I want to mention someone's performance, but I just feel like the performance was not that bad. But I just think it's the only performance I didn't like that was doing too much. Uh, I think maybe it's the directing kind of the elder son of the king, the older prince. I didn't like his performance actually. So just like the person is doing too much for me. So that was the only thing that didn't flow well in other performances. So so I don't really know the accurate story about Basharun, like because at the beginning of this movie, I think they said it based on uh history, Basharun's history, kind of. So they didn't say like the perfect story. So I don't really know. So I'm not going to talk about that. So what I will just talk about is how this turns out to be a movie that was not, well done. Kind of like the story was not well made as a movie. Let me say the story as the history, but as a movie, I didn't really feel that this story is well written because it just felt as if okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about maybe because someone was narrating the story. That was why they just felt like they wanted to do too much because a lot of things were just happening. Kind of like let's quickly jump to the next thing. Yeah, like some of the subplots came together at the end, but I just felt like it was doing too much. Like example, like that Zainab story because I was when she was in and you have to work for my love from all this. You have to do this. I was like, okay, is something going to come out of Zainab's story? But nothing really came out of it. Then she was just saying, "I'm not part of their family." I was like, nothing. This character would have not made any sense. Yeah, we are. Basharon has many wives, and that should all tell us that he loves women. So we won't be surprised if he like to marry the princess that died. If they had said, "Oh, I will marry this princess," I won't be surprised. But Zainab's story didn't change anything for me. It didn't add, it didn't subtract. So I would have done without that character. Um, the prince, the younger prince, kind of. I felt like I wanted to see more of him, kind of, because his own story was used to move the plot. Actually, it was just used to move the plot. Yes, that brought me to the princess character. She was used to move the plot. I didn't. When she died, I didn't just feel anything. I was like, okay, so she died. What? What am I supposed to do about that? Because she was used to move the plot. I didn't know her as a character. I didn't know her as I didn't know her. I just know that she's pretty and the prince loves her. Nothing else as a character. I don't think she said anything. I don't think she said anything in this movie. She was just there smiling and all that. I'm like, she died. So what? What am I supposed to do about that? So this movie, the writing could have been better. The writing could have been better. And Basharun as a character, yes, we like his performance. I kind of yes, they did not bad with his characterization, but I just feel like they just wanted to show us that okay, Basharun is a bad person. That's all. Nothing. That's all about the character. Nothing. Nothing deep about the character. Not a complex. The only thing that is a bad person, and that's all. We didn't. I didn't get to know what the villagers' reaction to that character. I didn't know whether the villagers whether they like him or whether they don't like him. I was expecting to see if they were going to support. Maybe the villagers wanted to support their laughing, except when their laughing said, okay, they should not pay tax, that they were going to pay double tax and they were not going to pay to him. That was the only time I felt like they hated the Alaafin at that moment. So I didn't know what the villagers felt about Basharun, except the council of elders and the king. So that's the only thing about that character. I wish they could have done more. Just that most of the characters in this movie, I really never cared about them. The movie was just like they were just showing me, someone was just telling me story, and he wanted to tell me a lot of things, but didn't want to tell me something. Just wanted to tell me a lot of things. This is what happened at this time. This is what happened at this time. This is what happened at this time. So most of the characters were coming in to move the plot. They were coming in to move the plot. You know, that was why I said the performances they were not there. I couldn't feel performances from other actors because the story
Okay.
were just coming in, to just move the plot. So especially the princess, I wish they could have done more with her. I really didn't. The writing could have been better. That's all I have to say.
All right. Okay. All right. Things not even much change. A lot of things I agree with in there, to be honest. Oyinka, do you want to give us the things that bothered you about House of God?
I really, nothing much really bothered me about House of Cards because I accept the movie as it is. Um, could it have been better? Sure. Okay. This is feedback, I guess. Feedback for a product that cannot be remade. um, some of the costuming and the beats were clearly very modern beats. We're talking about Oyo. Well, it's not Ile-Ife, but usually the rich people wanted glass beads, and I really wish that um our movies try to make something that looks pretty close to glass beads. So they'll be using glass beads by now. Or again, the timeline, what do you mean 17th century to late 18th? Like, okay, you kind of need to be more specific, but whatever, it's a movie, that doesn't matter. Yes, I feel like if they had made the story more, we couldn't get the history or how the regular people feel about Basharun. And like I thought they should have done a story of like how he got power because it was originally supported by the people until it became much worse. Uh, but it's not heavily a political movie that talks about the political that really heavily talks about the political movement of the leaders of Basharun. I also have a tiny little pushback, but of the leaders of the Oyo Empire. I felt like some of this is going into Wikipedia and pulling out what Wikipedia said. Now I don't know if they only went to Wikipedia and pull out what Wikipedia said. I suspect that they didn't. But it is what it is. But that's not a story that I don't think that I'm not sure if Babs can do it or not. I shouldn't say that. I don't know Babs like that. Maybe she can do that type of story. But that's not the story we got. Uh, I felt maybe a little bit of what's it called? Computer graphics could have been done a little bit better. I felt indeed some of what Nollywood Machine said true does make sense. The princess and the love story between the princess and something could have done much more. But I do still think that they did something with the princess. Uh the idea of like the Oyo Messi is the only ones who we never get to see how the kings are decided upon as much because it's not just the Oyo Messi. The Oyo Messi does the approval, indeed. But there's other political like OC and something. They are more of the king's palace, right? Those people also kind of get to make a decision. They're the kingmakers of it. And I feel like they should also make a better description of but it's too much to ask of a movie. So the movie should have better cinematography, should have made it more focused on Bashorun and why Bashorun gets power and how the people liked him originally, and how Bashorun might have originally come in as a reformer. And then as time proceeded, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So maybe that type of story should be needed to stay. Which will make sense of more space for Funke Akindele to do something, as like she was there originally with Basharon, and Funke Akindele and the women in this movie don't get to do anything politically, which makes absolutely no sense if you know Yoruba something, and it's just a bunch of men. So that will make space for those things a little bit more. You know, and better costuming, like don't put things that's obviously a more modern clothes into more modern beads into like the past. But hey, it is what it is. It's actually a good movie. Wow.
All right.
I'm
Thanks.
done.
Thanks, Anika. We have lost Ola now, right? Elizabeth, do you want to give us the thing that you
Yeah.
like?
Okay. So first, I would like to say that I figure that this film wasn't made for me as per I am not the target audience, and that's because half of the time, especially when it comes to like historic things like this, I get it that you have to take liberties with the story. Really can't stop being pedantic when I notice things that just stand out with like either the dressing, using damask, come on, brocade, come on. Like the outfits, extremely modern. I get it. That probably has like a stash of costume for your like bam, 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 let everybody wear it. And then in the beginning, we were calling Nupe Nupe. I'm like, come on, that's Tapa to you. But, later on, the women in their own scene, they called Nupe Tapa. Anyways, so let me leave that. And I would like to say that before I go into my bad, I like Bab's depiction of who Guy is. Guy here is just straight up mean, big, bad, wicked, right? Other depictions have depicted him to be slightly cunning, unassuming, but I like the creative choice she went with. Now the problem here is just that, apart from the fact that he's just plain wicked, straight up, the first half spent so much time just showing us that he's wicked. Oh, this guy's so wicked, so mean, big, bad. He's killing kings. We don't even know why he's doing that. Okay, we know why he's doing that, but we don't know how they're even dying. There were some of the deaths that were quite iffy. It was just doing things, and he could have spent so much time to show him as a divisive person who was equally loved and feared. Now, I'm using the word loved in the sense that you really can't be a basher, like you can't be this big warlord who without somehow endearing the people to you. And so I agree with previous speakers who have spoken on the fact that we really don't know what people think about him. So you're telling me that this guy is just mean, big, bad, and it's just that. And really, Guy is supposed to be a polarized character, at least historical wise. Again, it's fine if you don't want to stick to him being a polarized character. It's just that the problem with this is you end your protagonist when you're writing a story ends up being linear, like one, like you really don't want a one-tone linear protagonist because this is exactly what you get. And that's why sometimes when people say, oh, real life, even in real life, every person is, no one is inherently bad or good. Everybody has some come of yin yang balance to them. And so I didn't get how this polarized character, at least, I mean, he's supposed to be our anti-hero, right? And this guy is just straight up villainous. There is no redeeming character to him. No internal struggle here. Even when he was crippled, he was just straight up wicked. Well, I rate it too, like I really rate a hater. Eh, but this isn't how you treat your protagonist, unfortunately. It just doesn't for the film, it just doesn't like even when I completed watching this, I didn't feel sorry, I didn't feel bad, I didn't feel happy either. Like I'm not sure justice was done, right? I just yeah, okay, thanks for coming. That's how I felt. And because of all of this, it also springs up other questions like why this film has a major why problem. Why did he want like he didn't want to like Zainab and then he liked Zainab because his wives didn't like Zainab. So what happened after that to that storyline? Like, what's the point to that entire thing? Oh, BBN is starting. Like, what's the point to that entire thing. And you have the first time we saw Agboyin, that is the princess, likes Prince Abiodun's child. Again, we don't know anything about that dynamic. And somebody mentioned something about how they even become kings. The point is that there are ruling houses and ruling families, and the people that if a king is deposed, another king springs from another ruling. Again, this is just history lesson. But the point is, there is no way a non-Yoruba speaker would know that watching this film. There is no setting up. You're not set up anything. And why we see the Agboyin's character only being as a character loved as an adjacent to the men that liked her, right? There is no personality here. There is no why who she even wanted to be. And I'm trying my best not to compare it to the older version of Bashar and that we watched while we were younger. But it's funny how even that did a better job in the individuality of who Agbonyi was. And we didn't get that here. And we get Omoba Abiodun, like Prince Abiodun's child, but we didn't see Prince Abiodun even in person until that old incident with the king's younger brother. And the next thing, Prince Abiodun becomes king. Again, there are some form of links that just don't make sense. So we know nothing exactly about the father and son, which even brings me back to this, how this film ended. There is some sort of rush. And Prince Abiodun, okay, for the other kings, we could say that they didn't want to revere Basharun, and then when they go against him, they magically wind up dead. If he's not sending poison to them or he's telling them to go kill themselves, he's probably just sending things to. I'll soon round up. But the point here is that Prince Abiodun seemed like a sitting duck until his child died. And that felt so rushed and really doesn't show any dynamic in the entire story. So that's it for me.
All right. No, thanks, Elizabeth. I share a lot of, and thanks for every time I go, or maybe I lost something, I lost a thing because of the Yoruba, or Elizabeth is there to come and back me up, and other Yoruba speakers of NFC. Thank you. Atas, do you want to tell us some of the things you struggled with, House of Girl?
Yeah, so I'm glad Elizabeth just said that because I think that Nigerian biopics usually really struggle with explaining what is going on. There seems to be like a required baseline of knowledge that you need to come in with, which doesn't make any sense, especially if you are trying to sell nationally and globally. And so I left this with a lot of um, confusion, whys and hows, and like what was going on. And there were points where I think somebody else had to explain like some backstory to me about how once the basher gives the Alafin the eagle eggs or ostrich eggs or something, then he has to kill himself. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know that? Like, how can I? But so it was just really confusing. Um, and yeah, so the stories just had a lot of whys and hows for me, and there were just so many of them that I had a hard time even following. I didn't understand why the first king died, or even how. Like I understood, like you get the egg, you die, but it was like, why did he want him to die in the first place? And then there's some confusion for me there because it says it's supposed to kill himself, but then he just drops dead. So anyways, it's a small detail, but there are a lot of them that are small and forgotten through the movie. Like for instance, they forget that Tony is his wife for like 80% of this movie. Like she shows up briefly at the beginning and then again at the end. And I just there was no rhyme or reason to a lot of things that were happening. Like, why was Agboyi the price to pay for him regaining his muscle strength? Like, how is Agboyi a worthy exchange for his son? Like, that doesn't even seem like it bears the same amount of loss. Like, the gods want to take something important from him. The one of his sons is one of the prize, and then this random girl that he just randomly married. Oh, Tonya is his sister. Okay. That gives me a lot more clarity, honestly, because I was just very confused a lot. Um, I did not understand why Agbonyi was a catalyst that made everyone say enough. Like, why did the villagers? It just wasn't clear to me. But yeah, that's really what my issue is with this movie, is that the story didn't make any sense. Like, I understood how they got from A to Z and the main story they were trying to tell, but how they got there was very confusing and very convoluted for what felt like no reason.
Okay, no, thanks, Tash. I get you on a few things there. Do we have Emmanuel? Emmanuel, do you want to tell us some of the things you struggle with in House of God?
Yes, I would like to. I did wrote some things down. Yep. So the thing is, I don't know if I should dare to differ with some persons who says the story doesn't make sense. Actually, if you did history or you know about the old Oyo Empire,
Sorry,
you will
Emmanuel.
definitely can
Emmanuel, I don't mean to
can you
interrupt you. We'll have a place to fight each other where we disagree with each other after
oh,
we do our
okay.
own bat. So just save it.
Okay, okay.
We'll come back to that.
All right, okay. I wasn't going to talk about that though, but I just wanted to mention about it. But let me just go to the things that I don't like. Okay, the first thing when I saw the trailer first, I saw the title. Titling actually is I raised my eyebrow on the title of the movie, House of God. So it's if you look at the movie, the depth of the movie and actually the title, you know, most times titling is a way to bring people into your movie. So I feel the title House of God is a bit too loose for such kind of movie titling. My own opinion, like the way I see it, I don't think the title beats the storyline and everything about the movie. Then I'll talk about the accent. Actually, I think this problem, Bolanle Austen-Peters has this problem. Even while in Funmilayo Ransom Kuti, she did not accurately pinpoint the accent. In Funmilayo Ransom Kuti, the mention of Egba people, even the Egba accent was not actually developed. This one, we're talking about old Oyo Empire. The accent is not really, it's not it for me. It wasn't giving that language, unlike the Anukulakwe parts where we had this linguistic appreciation, and you're like, yes, I like what they are speaking. Like, it's just when you hear people like that in their elements or in their language, you just tend to flow with the story. But this one, you see this moment, Oyemekun switches from his maybe Lagos Yoruba accent to Ibadan. So there's a struggle between trying to fit into the Oyo accent, the Oyo Ile, the old Oyo Empire accent. So the accent wasn't it for me at all. And this Prince Abiodun, like some persons had mentioned earlier, I don't know the origin of the Prince Abiodun, how he came to be, then his place in the movie. I don't know, because we just got to see Prince Abiodun, then Agboyin, his daughter. How come? Like, from where? So it's raised this question that nobody knew his origin, nobody knew where he came from. We just in the story, then we just had to accept him like that. Then Zainab's character, I feel it's not needed. In as much this movie we had A-list characters, and the A-list characters not like they were too much, but like you said earlier, it's unlike movies where you see A-list characters and they didn't even bring much to the table, and you will ask yourself why the need of A-list characters, this is so many characters. But here we see the usefulness of those characters. But this Zainab character, like, even if you are here, you're not here. Your presence is not needed. You have not. I don't see what you contribute, what you bring to the table. So there was nothing important like that she brought to the table. We're talking about visual effects. I'll talk about my last. This is my last point. The visual effects and coloration is not actually it for me. This is where I get to compare with Anikulapo. Kunle Afolayan does this so much. He's it on the nail when it comes to coloration and visual effects. I will give you a particular scene where the Ariel Nokakamfo, that was Yemi Black, he stabbed the son, that was one of the sons of Bashorun, what's his name again, Olaoton. Then you can see that particular scene. It's not looking real, like a real, a real scene where someone has just been stabbed. Then the way the Olaoton Olawuton characterized that scene wasn't it for me. The VFX wasn't looking real. The visual effects didn't capture everything, so it's looking like it's something like the thing was cropped on his neck. It's not looking. That part was not looking real. The coloration, though, I don't know what you're trying to portray. Probably it's biopic. I know it's biopic, but you can still do very much with the coloration. So these are things that I actually didn't see. Okay, like I raised an eyebrow with these things. Looking at the movie, they actually sit well with me. Let me put it like that.
Okay. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Next we have Uti, I see you're back. Uti, do you want to tell us some of the things you did not like about House of Ga?
Okay, I'll be quick again. First thing, I actually didn't enjoy like the casting. I personally don't like very studied characters in movies. Granted, like they did, I feel like they didn't overshadow themselves, but like I would have appreciated more of like characters I don't really know of. I really liked when Zainab came on the screen because I was like, oh, I haven't seen her before. But it just felt like everywhere I was just seeing everybody. That's number one. Number two, like I'm not saying that the VFX or the CGI I'm not expecting it to be perfect, but I feel like in scenes where it couldn't be perfect, I don't know why the camera was like on it for a long time. An example was when they killed, I think, Stananze, and they were supposed to show us the face, like that. Oh, that's Stananze's like head and stuff, and it did not look at Stananze like it did not look like Stananze at all to me. And I felt like in moments like that, it would have been like 2 seconds on that, not like spending like at least 5 seconds so I can really see that this doesn't look like Stananze. So things like that kind of irked me a bit. I think the third thing was I had to rewatch it like 3 times because like the beginning part because I didn't get what was going on. I was like, oh, why is this happening? Like I feel like people already mentioned a lot. There was a lot of whys for me, and I felt like the first part it was kind of like discontinuous. It was just like it felt like scene, then scene, then scene, then scene, and then it's like we're just supposed to follow along like that. So I think it was mostly three of those things. I feel like everyone else mentioned most of the things I didn't like about it. But yeah, that's it.
All right. No, thanks, Uti. I hear you on some of those. Even though yes, I did say about people being well casted. I can understand how some people might not see some point in some characters, but just liked the looks of people for the characters they were supposed to be playing, and that they actually were given something. But sometimes I understand how fresh faces work better for you, and they're not as distracting as look, this person. I hear you. All right. Is Jeez, we have some people who keep coming on and off, and you're spoiling my rhythm. Just Zeratosin on. Sabalo. Yeah. Okay, he's all right. He's not in the request. All right, Don, do you want to go ahead? Whilst tell us some
All
of the
right.
things you do not like.
All right. So thank you guys. When I finished watching this film, I, I don't know what I felt, and I was trying to, feel something. Like, at the end of the film, you feel joy for your character, you feel anger, sadness, whatever. But I didn't know what to feel. Like, I knew that it wasn't a bad film, but I just didn't feel anything, and I had to like analyze and try to know why I didn't feel anything. I think it was for two major reasons. First of all, when the film started, the film made us look like or feel like we're not just going to be following one character, and that was what's it called, Basharu, and then the son, the last born. So at a point I was invested in the guy's love story, because to a point we followed him to Dalme to even go and rise to become something different. Maybe there was going to be sort of change in his character, but we didn't. So we just had Basharon at the end of the day, and we're following Basharon. But one of the major problems I had with Basharon is that it was too linear. And what do I mean by this? When I read after watching it, I read the Wikipedia like rundown of the story of House of God, and I realized that it was almost like a copy and paste of what was in the Wikipedia that was shown. And it was now almost very fast paced. So I personally, I would have thought, because what happened is that this man killed like four Alafians, killed like four kings. But the scenes to which he killed those four scenes were almost like maybe 15 minutes. It was very fast. And now I'm asking myself, the politics within the Yoruba kingdom or your empire, is it that minimal? Is it as it was minimized to just a few minutes? And I felt that was a fault in terms of the storytelling technique. I would have thought, I would have personally thought that we have to go through a journey with our character, and that is probably start with him as a warrior where people like him, and then we see him change. But when the movie starts, we start with him already in this power monger state, which didn't feel right, because when you have a character that starts in a particular way and ends the same way, you just have a linear character. It feels like we do not go through any journey. Now, it doesn't mean that your character cannot be the same at the end of the movie, but we need to see him go up and down. We need to see some sort of internal struggle. And I think this is very missing in the character that's Basharu. There was no internal struggle for the character, and that is to show that the character was very simple. Human beings are complex, and even as much as you can say someone is evil and wants to do something that is very, very bad, whatever, you need to show that they are still going through something. But we never really saw that. It just seemed like he was doing, even when they tried to do it, that one of the kings will increase tax or whatever, and that's why he did it. It just felt like it just felt very rushed. They had to do two things. They either focused on the politics and how everything worked in house, in that time, and show us nuanced stuff that happened, or they show us from when he's a warrior, and then we go on that journey on how he becomes evil, and so we are able to even sympathize with him and say, oh, but we start the story with him being evil, and then we end it with him being evil. At no point is he even very good a bit. You get that kind of thing. I just felt like that was the problem, and I think that was why I just felt I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything for him. I didn't feel anything for his children. Nothing. So that's just it for the story aspect. The other aspect, I think, is SFX. The SFX was annoying me, and the reason why I say it was annoying me was because at certain points I would even see that the holes or the stabs weren't there. It's just blood smeared on their body. Especially there's a scene where one of the sons was poked in the neck. I can't remember his name. And you could see that it's just blood that is there. There's no poke. Several stuff like that. There was even a scene at the end where they show a child, which I felt like was very unnecessary, and then there's blood just put. It felt very flimsy to me. I don't know why it was done like that. I think someone also mentioned with the head thing. When you know that your head prosthetics doesn't look like the main character, the highest they could have done was just show it from behind. We would appreciate it. Like, we understand that is a head, but you showed your full face and it just looks like something that was made, in my backyard. I'm sorry to say I might be sounding a bit harsh, but I just feel like these are some of the things that we need to see. And then
Okay.
also the CGI. The CGI was off and on for me, because I think the only CGI scene that I really liked was when he pulled the bow. But after that, especially that ending fire scene, why we like I don't know. Let's just leave. Let me just leave it like that. And then also lastly, I think
Okay.
I think um the fight scenes I think could be improved on. I said they were good here and there, but they
Okay.
were still not so great. So that's it for me. Thank you very
Oh no,
much.
thanks, Dawn. All right. Sabalo, over to you. Tell me some of the things that you didn't quite like.
Okay, thank you. So I'll leave the technicality to the professionals, right? Because I'm not a movie professional, essentially. So I will just talk about the accuracy of history. Um, I mean, everything everyone has said as regards technicalities and all that, they're very spot on. There are also things I noticed, but I actually think that a story like House of Gar missed a very, very important point. And the point that I think it missed is the relevance of the content, as a cornerstone of history. Like if people want to really understand what Oyo Empire was, or if people want to do like a deeper research about Bashorunga and all that stuff, the movie should actually be a point of reference. But I actually think it totally lost it because quite a number of things about the history, it's not accurate, right? And someone also mentioned the fact that it's like the writer just went to Wikipedia and just that was the only research that that the writer did. I don't think they actually sort of did any form of ethnographic research, maybe by even going to this Oyo town and talking to people, and borrowing, influences, from perspectives and all that, from different people, because it's very, very important that when we want to tell a story that is a critical piece, of a tribe, like the accuracy is very, very important, right? So, in some historical sources, it said Gar was hanged, till he died, right? But in the movie, he was actually, burnt alive. So small details like this are very, very important because you are actually telling the story of a people, and quite a number of people will not even go to the historical books that have been written, about this particular time in history. Most people actually prefer to watch the movie, and what that means is the fact that they'll be taking away a lot of misinformation, right? Another thing is the costumes. Again, the accuracy of history. There's a lot of modernization going on. Again, it's also back to the research, right? You don't even get to see things like there are actually some fabrics that are very, very that are very typical to the Yoruba culture, but there is a fabric called sonyo. Sonyo is a fabric that is actually worn by the elites, right? So I was expecting to see something like that, but what you're just saying is these are modern ashoke that you probably see in traditional weddings and all that. So I think that's that research is really, really lacking, and it sort of make the movie to miss the point of it becoming an historical point of reference. Still on history, the festivals that were depicted, they lacked the colors and the customary rites, right? And I think festivals are actually very fantastic perspective to talk about a people. Like if you really want to understand, a tribe, or you really want to understand, a race, right? Their festivals, their customary rites is always a very fantastic, fantastic source to be able to really glean things around them, right? And so most of the festivals that were depicted in the movie, they lack that color and customary rites, right? There was this Odun that they were celebrating when the chief had to come and had to take the message of their laughing to Ga and all that. I mean, if you really understand how these festivals were celebrated, then you will know that what they did in that movie was just a cheapened version of all those festivals. And they could have contributed a lot of color and a lot of impact, right, in how the story is being told. They could have really enriched the story, if they've really sort of paid more attention to the festivals, especially how they're being celebrated, the customary rites that are involved and all that. Then again, the language. I know someone has sort of talked about that, but I think it's also part of what I'm saying about the accuracy of history, right? You see people mixing the Lagos version of Yoruba. I think God got it right. He got that or your kind of Yoruba right. Again, like I said, I'm from Ibadan, so I actually know how this thing sounds, right? But every other character, it's like they struggle to get into the character of that proper or your indigene and all that, because you could really see a lot of you could really see a lot of she sound in how they are sort of relaying their dialogue, and I think that was one thing that Anikulapo got right. So you even see people like Shola Shobowale, who actually sort of lived in Lagos, very cosmopolitan, but they were still able to relay that dialogue. I think everybody in Anikulapo got that right. Probably
Okay.
the director missed it. right? Probably, something happened, or maybe they felt it's not important. But again, like I said, a movie like this, the most important use case for it is that it's a point of reference that people can always go to if they want to understand how a people at a certain time in history live their lives, how the languages are being spoken, the kind of dresses they wore back then, the kind of festivals and all that, that they did, right? So I think for me,
All right.
that is it. Finally, for me, is actually the fact that there was a waste of stars,
Sorry.
right? Like, for the stars
Sorry,
that
Tosin.
sorry, you're saying something?
We have time limits, and you have you've gone well over.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So let me just quickly wrap up with this, please.
We'll come back again. Don't worry, we'll come back again if
Okay.
people.
So I'll stop here then.
Yeah,
I'll stop here then. Thank you very much.
everybody. No worries.
Yeah.
All right. And I think next we have Rotimi. Rotimi, do you want to give us your the things that disturb you about House of God?
Okay, I'll try and be specific then. So the first thing that stuck out, because it starts at the beginning of the film, is actually that the first battle scene with the Nupe warriors. So there's just the sword fighting and the battles just they're not strong. And I think that one of the things that when you're trying to do something like this, when it has this epic nature about it, and you have to do something like a fight, something like a sword fight, is like something that you want to. It should look good for the screen, but it kind of leads me to my other point about almost a lot of things inside House of God. So for me, it's House of God is something that should have been. It fits the story based on the layers that are in it. It looks like something that should have been a series instead of a movie. But when I looked at it, I'm like, it's good they didn't make it a series, because it seems like there's just not enough to tell the story, to cover the full story. We don't have enough. I think that what's happening now is that, like, when people are talking about even the historical inaccuracies, whether about the costume or in the natures of people, the characters they are talking about, or even the Yoruba, even this sword fighting I'm talking about, we just don't have enough to tell the story on the scale. And I think Bolanle has actually even mentioned it. I think last year Mo even made a mention of it, that there's not enough money to tell a grand story. So what I'm struggling with is almost like this. I didn't come for the Funke space, but it's still the problem. Like, why are we attempting these grand stories that are big, huge scope stories that need a lot, that obviously we don't have enough money to pull off? So we patch it. So it's like, so the accuracies we start losing some accuracies, things like the dialect, things like the fighting, things like the costume, things about like, what are we even trying to say? Because there's a lot of segments of this story that if it was a series, you could now, expand. Even this thing we talk about the character, we could see the growth if we had time to expand, but we don't have time. So that's why everything feels as though it's compressed. The story is compressed together. But I appreciate it because I actually understand the fact that based on where we are in Nigeria and the economic, let's not lie, we can't do a lot. We have to do what we can. And that also leads me to the other part of the Yoruba epic now has become a template that anybody can recreate. And like, okay, if you have this, you have a Yoruba epic movie, okay, we can put it together. And I think that maybe that's still the part that, like, I actually saw somebody was like, the only thing I was missing in this thing was Odolade. That Odolade, if it was a normal stuff, Odolade would have been Femi Branch's character would have been played Basha Onga. And I'm like, they have given me just the same thing over and over again. We're just remix the story and put the same characters, known faces, give them the same character. Okay, put them in the action. Okay, again, do it again over and over again. So it's almost it's not that it's getting played out. There are stories, there's a value to telling these kind of stories, but I don't know if we have enough to tell the stories on the full scale that everybody will appreciate. And I also appreciate, it's also now you have to now appreciate, okay, we appreciate the attempt, but the attempt now leaves everybody now, oh, this thing is not done well, that's not done well, oh, this, and I'm like, yeah, because we don't have enough to tell the full story. Then I'm now questioning, why are we telling the stories of this nature? Then maybe my most important point with the Zainab character, I don't know, I'll say this maybe in my small technical knowledge, I can show nudity without necessarily showing you nudity. And I'm saying this like, I don't need to see the front of Zainab. If you show me Zainab wrapper fall from her back and I see her back, I know she's naked. I don't need to see the front. I get the point. I don't need to see the front. That nudity is too hard on my eyes. I'm like, I don't need to see this. I know we're trying to shock. I think that's the only point that like Zainab's character still shows how more into the nature of Basharan's character, of how he does like, okay, I know because she was supposed to go to his son. It's like, no, I want her. Oh, the prince. Oh, even though I'm paralyzed. Oh yeah, give me. I'm like, I can collect her too. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I don't need to see that level of nudity. Drop her claw from the back. I don't need to see the front, her front, and I'll be okay. So yeah, I think that's basically. I can let other people talk. Maybe the other things I'll talk will come back in the pushback. But yeah.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for it to me. Before I go to Mrs. C, I'm just going to read out some of the comments that have been coming through. Tessin Balade says, even the word costumes don't look accurate. Like, give us how the Yoruba warriors look. And Still Human says, yeah, all the women in this were pretty useless. The characters, I imagine. the Lagos Yoruba accent, I was screaming. The person talking now is really saying my mind. This is a while ago. Sorry, I should have read this. Incan says, one bad, I should have said one word, the guns. Also, why these soldiers fighting like Roman soldiers, the way one uses the type of swords they use in West Africa than in Europe. That were used in West Africa than in Europe. Okay. Mr. C, do you want to say some of the things that bothered you? Welcome.
Yeah. I think this film wasn't made for me. Let's put it that way. I think this film wasn't made for me. I think a number of things that I've overheard mentioned were also similar to things that bothered me. If we start with Basharanga's character, for instance. Now, Femi Branch he is a good actor on a normal day, and when you give him something good to do, he will do it well. I feel like Basharanga was very one note. Basharanga was evil from the start and evil all the way to the end. Which made him very uninteresting for me, because I mean, being evil from start to end isn't necessarily uninteresting. It just felt like nothing new was happening. I didn't see him plotting, right? I didn't see him plotting. I didn't see him scheming. I didn't see him doing anything except killing kings. Even from the first king that gets killed, again, this is when we put films kind of out there that have a lot of cultural norms. I know it gets a bit weird to try explaining things, but a casual viewer won't understand or won't get how Basharanga sending a parrot's egg to the king leads to his death, right? A casual viewer wouldn't understand why the king is compelled to suicide, right? Based on what Basharanga has sent him. And honestly, I don't even understand how, as a casual viewer, how Basharanga has that power to send that to the king when it doesn't even seem like he has the others in agreement with him. Also, going on for that, the film doesn't, and I feel like, again, my major qualms here, people have talked about the costumes and all of that. My major qualms here are just in the development of this story and in how I feel like it failed to entertain me and it failed to make sense to me. It doesn't do any, because again, when you watch all these political, because it is a political, film at the end of the day, right? It shows you how these people play the politics, right? We don't see him getting, what is the name of the council? I can't remember that council where they have 7 members, right? I don't see him getting them on his side, right? They don't show him do that. Literally, he comes in, he takes the oath, and the first thing he does is disagree with them and storm off. And I am so perplexed. It's okay, I'm just going to kill 2 of the king's emissaries and nothing's going to happen. I felt so perplexed. Again, obviously, I go back and read and say, Basharan tends to have quite, strong powers to try and offset the powers of the Alafin. But it still seemed very perplexing. I was perplexed for most of the film. I didn't understand Bashar Gar's motivations. I imagine it was, okay, he's trying to get more power. Great. But it just seemed, bad twirling villain wants the king to come prostrate to him in the middle of the night with no one here, just so it could give him a book. I don't know, right? And then the Zainab storyline of, I will give you my body, but not my heart. And then all of a sudden now he wants a heart. I am perplexed. He just grabs this slave from his son. I don't know how we got to wanting her heart. I have no idea how we got to, I am this general warlord about to do a rape, but hey, I am not going to touch you until you give me your heart. I was very perplexed about a lot of it. And yeah, it was, I think it's unsatisfying the way it ends. I don't care that Basharon's reign of terror is over. I don't even know that he has a reign of terror. He's terrorizing the kings, but then the king before the last one who he kills, the people celebrate when he dies. And we get one throwaway line about him raising taxes, which boo. But then he's going to call back the Nepo babies that have been sent as governors to nominate his own, which sounds about right. And yeah.
Okay.
I think Oyinka and Lisbeth want to explain some of my perplexity.
They save it for pushback. Okay. We will, because we still have another second round to go, and obviously we still have me to give my bad. All right. Okay. So the things that I didn't like, Atas mentioned the text in her goods. It is, I'm sure it's ironic, but the pink thing, it just, especially I need to mention, because as somebody who liked things that so much the cheap looking props, I thought that it felt right for what I was watching. I don't think the pink typography that was coming out in the lower third, in the bottom of your screen, showing all the village, I thought that looked very silly. I don't know why it was in there. This would have probably come in with the pushback. I thought this cinematography is probably one of Bab's worst. It might be tied with the last one, FRK, but I think this one was worse than. I think this one was quite a bit worse than FRK, to be honest. Just really awkward framing, cutting people's heads at weird places. Just, to be honest, it wasn't helped by for me, the worst thing about this film, which is the editing. I don't know whether it's the combination of both the editing and the subtitles, but both of them were too quick for me. There's just too many cuts too quickly. Especially with the subtitles, I had to pause a lot, asking the faster reader amongst us, Mrs. C, to explain what did people just say, because at some point, like especially when you miss 2 or 3 lines, I just gave up and I was like, all right, I'll just wait for Mrs. C to tell me what the hell everybody was shouting about here. But even with that, there's something jarring about that as well, that whilst you're trying to read it, the scenes are just cutting between shots so quickly. It made for a very uncomfortable watch. So even overall, I just couldn't enjoy what was going on in this. I mentioned that I did like a lot of the grading, but sometimes, this is something. Something that one of our friends from Nollywood Ramblers will Corridor from Nollywood Ramblers will at least empathize with me, and I'm hoping anyway, would be the consistency between some of the pictures. Sometimes we'll just go from, we're in this grade, and then the next shot, I don't know whether it's because sometimes it was a drone shot, but inconsistency in the pictures was very jarring. The boobs. I don't care if they were breasts. In fact, breasts in this film would have made sense given how R-rated it felt in terms of the battles, and there were slicings and there was beheadings. It just, the way it was done was silly. For a while, I think one of the things I mentioned were decently done was the CG, because the the first CG boobs, I didn't know there were CG boobs. I thought it was weirdly edited because of the way it was placed, because she's like, you see her almost, he's asking her to remove her hand, and we don't get any of that action. We just get a cut to her boobs. It's just such a weird, drop in continuity for that shot. And then the second time they do it, I'm like, why are we doing this a second time? Again, it's not her boobs. I'm just not sure why we spend some money on fake CGI boobs. Especially if we're going to show it this badly. It was just so, hey, see the work we've done. And I think I put in here that it reminded me of that white girl who said the N word. It felt like very cheap shock value. It just felt like a 12-year-old saying the F word just because they can. I didn't see any point in that. What else do I have? I've got people have talked about God's motivation. Yes. So I think this film would have been better if they didn't even do that flashback to show that he saw his, because I was like, wait, that's why you're that's why you're a lunatic. It's not just like I don't get anything from him that maybe he's going after certain people, or he just seems like a lunatic after most power. And this is where this is not quite a pushback. It kind of is a pushback. I don't disagree with this power. No, this was somebody who was mental from the get-go. Mental from the get-go, was always going to be mental, which asks, why the hell would you make him, give him any power or position in the first place? It just seems silly. And then the guy's supposed sacrifice, that was a sacrifice. Somebody he just picked as a wife 5 minutes ago. That blows my mind that counted as a sacrifice. That God would have probably felt for living in bondage, where when Andy goes to brings a sex worker from the street. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, that's mine. We'll go for a second round if people had extra things to say. Elizabeth had her hand up. So Elizabeth, go on.
Yes, I just wanted to pan. I know we've discussed this on this. Hey, I was about to say platform. My age was about to show. I was going to say that we've discussed this old nakedness thing before on this platform, guys. And I know that, like, Nollywood directors don't like listening because everybody hits them and wants their downfall and yaga. But seriously, when I first saw those boobs, apart from the fact that they came from left, I wasn't even sure what I was looking at. And then, I'm not joking, the boobs were staring at me like 2-3 seconds. And I was wondering, it got awkward at some point. I'm like, should I look away?
It got awkward. I'm like, and unnecessary.
It got so awkward because it was like, what's going on? And after watching that scene, I kept thinking to myself, what was the point? Now, I didn't even notice that it was CGI. I was also thinking that is it some Anikulapo boobs, prosthetic boobs, but I was just like, but why? But I get it. I'm like, okay, maybe the struggle, the way like wanted to humiliate. I'm like, okay, maybe that's the reason. But why? And then when it happened again, I'm like, hey, like I don't know. I don't know what it signifies, and I don't know why. It's not fair. Let me just start. It's not fair in world building. We need to. And this is not about me, maybe my sensibilities being, fragile. It's about what's the purpose of nudity in film. Like when we do things, this is how we were talking about production design. We love the use of color, the world building. What was the point of those boobs? Now, if it's that we saw 2, 3, 4, maybe it's that, people normally roam around naked in there. Maybe, exposing someone's nudity is a way to shame them. There are maybe things you could have set up without it seeming like, oh, talking boobs. Like, because this is what it looks like now. It feels like we invent token boobs in films now. Like, oh, we need some naked. I've never seen a man's naked. Did we? Anyways, like, it's like, oh, we need something naked in this film. Oh, boobs to the rescue. Come on now. Chelsea, come on now. Come on now. Like, I just couldn't get over. I really, the boobs was going to take me out of this film because I just kept thinking maybe there's a deeper philosophy behind the boobs. There was nothing. Now, brings me back to the motivation in this film that was littered all over. It did not exist. And the reason why, see, again, I'm not, Tunde Babalola is supposed to be like this expert film script writer, something. So it's far be for me to tell him how to write, right? But you know the reason why we had to get that wishy-washy, oh, they killed one of the prince, they killed my brother, so now I'm going to just be killing kings up and down the village, right? We wouldn't have had that if Ga was properly balanced, if he was mentally okay, in the sense that if he was some political guy who was just plotting, that's enough motivation. Power does corrupt, absolutely, and the need for more power and wealth is a great motivation, a fantastic one, the best you could have gotten. Let us see the duality of Basharu. Let's see why people would have loved him. And not just that one time, oh, look, the king is bad. So Basharu removed him. So now, again, you don't even see how people love him, right? People were just happy they removed that particular king. So there was no synergy to this character. There was nothing together. And we bring this, in all of this motivation is, I was talking to somebody in the comment section. I remember the and I think Still Human, about the motivation for using Agboy as the, and then although this film did not use exposition as, to expose their motivation, but when after Agboy was used, even me, I was like, I bet did they tell him that he should use somebody that he loves and he didn't want to use Zainab? Again, this shouldn't be like that. Like, if I was not a constant Nollywood watcher, I wouldn't even have understood this line of thought in the first place. There was no way that would have come up to me. But using Agbonya, then when the song came, I was like, no, it would have been you. If it was not her, then why would it have been? And they, like, again, there was nothing to set up that they often used human sacrifices. I mean, apart from the third party gist that we heard about the Agbonyi, it made sense that, oh, he killed Agbonyi because her name sounded like Agbonri, which is deer in Yoruba. That was the story. Again, not all historians put that, but again, I don't mind them using, creativity. Like, you have your creative license to do whatever with your story, but it still falls apart when there is nothing, there is no rhythm or rhyme to the madness, no motivation there. Why did Agbonyi have to die? No reason. And that is where stories start to fall apart, because when you're trying to do something bigger, we often think that motivation should be grand, or maybe we often think that motivation should be, backstory. I've heard people do a lot of that. Show me the backstory. Like, why can't you live in the present? Why can't your motivation start in the present rather? And so I wanted you to end it with, I remembered when we were doing Adikulaku, I still no, yeah, Fumilayo, Ransom Kuti, and it was basically a case of, the writer for that one to enter Wikipedia and started writing. This one maybe is actually Wikipedia, because when somebody mentioned it this time around, I'm like, is it? Should I go and check? I mean, they took a lot of creative license towards the end, but honestly, this is just watery. But maybe I'm not the target audience.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Elizabeth. Me, I even took my own about. I forgot about that end. I didn't enter that end. The end for me, and this is a thing Nollywood has been doing recently, is that we'll set up somebody who's apparently quite dangerous and quite bad, really, and the way to defeat him would just turn up and attack the person and you kill them. It happened in Kilborough. We sort of this guy, he's supposed to be, and then the villagers just turn up and, oh, well, they kill everybody. Yeah. It's so lazy. It's so lazy. I thought they were going to use that Latif's character to maybe, I asked Mrs. C, because Mrs. C was my interpreter for when I missed something. The person who helped me with things that I missed. It's like, did they use maybe Latif would have given them a special inner lane secret path to the nothing. It's just always, oh well, just go and attack them and wipe their whole lineage. I thought this guy is supposed to be ridiculously anyway. Yeah, that's something I've noticed in Nollywood again, and I really wish we would be a little stronger and better in that third act. Anka, what you want to say, is that more things about in
Yeah,
bad?
yeah, it's kind of bad. So I'm just going to rush to the points. First of all, I did not know those breasts were CGI. No wonder they were staring at me. The second part, I thought it was weird that they were on video for that long. It was way too long for them to be on camera. So run through the bad. Run through. I won't say it's a bad. I was just because I still think like for the movies that they wanted to make, they made the sacrifices that they kind of could have made, I guess. But feedback is feedback. One, this is not about money. This is just more about, yes, honestly, I didn't want to say, that's why I brought up with Wikipedia. I didn't want to say they literally copied the Wikipedia because I saw the plot and I went to Wikipedia and it was exactly as the plot. I mean, it wasn't quote for quote for the plot. There was a part that they didn't do in Wikipedia because they did it, but they truncated it a lot that it doesn't make any sense because the second king that killed himself, hanged himself. Like when I read Wikipedia, I now completely understand what they were doing there. But yeah, they copied Wikipedia. I didn't want to say it as much. That's why I was like, I hope that it wasn't just with Wikipedia. The other thing is like, okay, this doesn't take money, but it just takes learning. And maybe looking at a YouTube video. The type of, I think I've already, but I didn't write it very well. The type of, what's it called? Sword that was used in West Africa, you don't fight like that with that type of sword. You don't copy, just don't copy Western European movies. Just don't do that. And even if you want to copy because you know everybody's used to that type of movie, something, I feel like they should have done it a little bit better. Like actually study how those American movies shoot that type of scene, and you shoot that type of scene that way, and just have it better if you wanted to copy. But that's not how they. You don't fight with a short broadsword like that. Secondly, what is it? Apart from that, the problem with the sort of sword fighting that looks like they are centurions from like Rome. Another problem is this: they they wanted to shoot a red wedding. Now I've not particularly seen all of Game of Thrones. I don't, but the red wedding thing was so popular that it was shot on my face. And that's basically what they did at the end. Who is Alake? Who's Alake? Who's Alake? If I did not watch the original House of God movie in something, I wouldn't have known that was the king that was going in, well, in a house of clothes, in a clothing something. Even in the original, in the older one, they used the rumor one where, as Elizabeth said, she had the name of the deer, and that's why the guy in that one killed this guy. This guy, we meet this guy. This guy is what's it called? We meet him being installed as Basharun. We meet him being installed as Basharun because it wasn't originally Basharun when the movie started, right? We meet him being installed as Basharun by the crown prince, and then he doesn't allow the crown. He just walks away from them. So there's a lot of things politically wrong with this movie. Of like, he's not even politically motivated because none of it makes sense because he literally kills the left and the right state minister and nothing happened. No consequences. No, like people actually trying to fight back him. And he just happens to win. None of that.
Yeah.
It's just this is you're killing important people. You know
Yeah.
that, but it's because it's a broad stroke movie, and as a broad stroke movie, I don't mind it, but they should have done a lot of exposition in a very creative way, and they didn't do that, and that's the problem. Or if they wanted to do Gar, because the older movie focused on a very particular time with Gar, focused on the reign of the last king. Like, I did something, and one thing they should, I don't, even when reading what's it called, Wikipedia, they didn't get that. Look, the reason why Gar was overcome by the last king was not only just because of his child. The last king prostrated to Gar, like was doing everything that Gar wanted. And Gar thought it was secure. That this king, even Gar wanted to this, even in the Wikipedia, it says that Gar wanted to kill him or something like that. Written by Samuel Jackson, even himself. Like Gar thought it was this guy was too soft, was too showing too much soft. And like is not acting well. So it's now going to look like he's the one that is in charge, right? But apparently the guy went at his back. But now I'm going in. But this is the thing. Like they should have focused on one of those two things. And if they wanted to go with like more of rumor like type of story, like the king wearing a dress to go meet Alake. First of all, you had to introduce Alake before. Alake came out of nowhere. But I will say their red wedding looks nice, and they had their red wedding.
All right. Thanks, Inka. Retime, I saw your hand up. Are you doing an extra bad, and is it quick? And so we can go to pushback, places we disagree.
Oh, I thought we're already in
We're not in
pushback.
pushback. Oh, we're still adding more bad. If you want to do pushback, just wait a second. Let me check if it has.
Let me kickstart it. Let me
No.
kickstart it just a
Wait. We
little
have
bit.
not started it yet. Hang on, wait, calm down. Otas, are you doing? Did you have an extra bad to say, or did you want to do a pushback?
Yeah, sort of. I had a question actually. How did everybody know that Bashar killed that lady?
Which lady?
There's no
The
wife.
one who died now, the new wife.
See, historically, we don't completely know, but it is at the time.
Actually, mean in the movie, not historically.
Oh, in the movie, that's true. They never explained. I was also thinking that too. They never explained that. It is based on the fact that there is the mythological story that you have to already know the story to understand that it was Basharun that killed it.
I think Zainab, if I remember correct, I think Zainab might have seen the. I don't know whether it's Zainab overhead. There was a scene where
Zainab, the guy asked Zainab to. They asked Zainab to excuse them.
Yeah,
and then they went in.
There was just a look.
Kill who? Sorry.
It seemed like suspicion, Sha.
Yeah. There's not a proof in the something.
There's
But
1
the
minute
thing
he's
is
not
that you have
walking,
to
and then
already
you
know the
realize when
story.
he starts walking.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of that, and I think it's maybe a combination of that, and people are like, oh, you use her as sacrifice, and I think Zainab at least would have been able to put 2 and 2 together. It's definitely not crystal clear, but I think that's what the
I'm
movie
even
was
less
going for.
concerned about Zainab. I can see how Zainab would have suspected after they actually leave. It's more so people like her dad and the rest of them, like the rest of the villagers. Why did they just come to that conclusion and then decide, oh yeah, this is the reason we have to kill him?
Maybe she
They didn't show that. They didn't show that.
Was it not the Babala who also told that guy that it would have been him if not her?
He told the son though. He told the son that he didn't tell the king that the son killed him after I told him. So at that point, only the son knows for certain, and then Zainab suspects.
Yeah, Osas is right. The
So
only
anyone
people that
could
should
have
have,
put 2 and 2 together.
the
I
only
think
two
it's just
people who they show us should have known that
okay. I
is
don't. It's not that important. I think what is clear is that it definitely wasn't clearly established what was happening. You can either take that some people put 2 and 2 together, or yeah. But let's move to the pushback section. Pushback. What were the pushbacks? Did anybody disagree with somebody on anything? I know Rotimi had some. Emmanuel, I think Emmanuel had some. You know what? I even have some. It's not a pushback into anything somebody said here. It's just a pushback against my babe, Shola Shopowale, because the amount of praise I've seen for this guy. I know if Shola did this role, you probably would have said, "Oh, she shouted, she
Thank
shouted."
you very much.
I know, really, oh, she shout like you guys respect Oba. Have some respect for Oba.
So, I said this that they made Femi Branch so one note.
He's so one
So
note.
one note. Same today, same tomorrow, same forever.
Yeah, well, I think I can't remember, it might have been Elizabeth or somebody pointed out that he does have love for his children and all of that. Oba was like that, and
I'm just gonna tell you now, Oba was never going to take a child's man. I don't know what love for his children.
No, but in terms of the range he was able to display, the only thing that this character, this guy has, is that towards the end he's basically paralyzed, so he does have to be a bit more quiet. But like Femia is angry and loud most of this movie, and nobody has said that. But if it's Shola Shobowale, you will come on her neck, come for her neck. So that's my pushback to all of you. All right. Anybody else have pushback?
Yes,
all right, Rotimi, go on then.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start this off by I sent this movie to my mom. My mom is in her late 70s and she's from Ile-Ife. My mom loves this movie. So let me first start off maybe we're not the target. Somebody said, I think it's Otas, maybe she's not the target audience, and I can just be the more canny. Yes, you are not. The first, and I'm not saying, I don't think that it's because it doesn't say anything particular, but the first point of Yoruba movies are for the Yoruba audience that watch anything. And they will watch as long. That's why they always put their faves. That's why Adedimeji will be there, Salami will be there, Odolade is there. It's the same, and they will watch it. So we are not the first point of call. There's a bigger enough audience. The audiences that watch Yoruba movies are big enough. Second point, my pushback is there was someone who was mentioning about the historical point of view. I'm yes and no. And I'm I get, because of we're adapting this from an historical time era, so we want to bring as much accuracy. But I don't think it is fair to use a movie as a reference point, because movies at best I would say is an adaptation. And so people change things to suit what they will work for their narrative, what works for them for their narrative work. So I know for a fact that people have that historically 300 is not accurate. Look, that whole style and the chest out, the way the costumes were, people are historians that's not how it happened. Troy too has people okay, that's not how it happens. Then a lot of things that still goes back to when we talk about, when we break down things in terms of story. I think one thing I've noticed, and I understand everybody's right about what they're talking about, motivation, structure. Otas talks about how was I supposed to get that if this wasn't explained to me? That's how normal story structure is, how a normal movie would be presented to a viewer. My problem that I'm noticing with Nollywood guys, and I'm it's almost I have to give them their way out. Is they're not shooting for the story, they're not shooting for the character, they're shooting what they can produce, and that's why it feels like things are not tallying up, because it's what can I have access to shoot? Because if I have to depict this part of this character, or I have to depict this part of this story, or I have to build this stuff, I don't have enough. So I think it was Elizabeth or Econ I was talking about that it's not about money. Time and learning is money. So if somebody has to take more time to do more research, say for the accents, more people have to spend more time actually getting the actors to pay more time to actually learn. It's like when Keanu Reeves wanted to do John Wick, he had to spend months actually learning how to use guns. So that time, we don't seem to have enough time either for our training, for the costume, to get the accurate costume, get the right dialogue, because all that costs money. I'm sorry to use foreign stuff to explain this. I watch House of the Dragon, and they do every single time they do inside House of the Dragon. Now, a lot of people complain that House of the Dragon is long and boring because they keep talking, that people want to see the dragon fight. That dragon fight, when they show it, the making of it, I'm they can't show you dragon fights because it's too expensive. Because that's what we have. So we're adding a lot of things. Like, and again, I think one more push. Another thing was about the Zainab character. For me, the Zainab character still showed me it was still more about showing the character of Basharon, because the way he picked up, there's one thing I was also there was I'm going to small of this matriarchy, patriarchy stuff. He treated like a piece of property. She said that I was there. Some people seized me. He collected like, no, okay, that one, okay, give her to me. Tells the son, oh, give her to me. So she's like a piece of property to him. And which was that play back and forth in which she like, oh, she's not going to give her heart to him and everything. And until he defends her against the elder wives, then she's not like, oh, opens up that, okay, you could do this for me. You understand? And like, no, when Bashir now came, that she was like, oh, there's an agreement between me and you. Was like, how dare you? Like, how can you say that me and you have an agreement and everything? So it still showed you more. Her purpose was to show more character of even still show more character of the Bashir. This thing is, I struggle because there's a story that is there that is more than what is being presented. But I'm also in the point where I'm like, I'm getting to that point. I always have to praise the attempt, and everything is the attempt.
This part is not pushback. We don't care about. We don't care about that part at this point. We don't care about that.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
So I'll take one thing and then I'll allow other people to touch on some things. I think one of the things I heard was about the him taking the woman as part of the patriarch. That is not important. I mean, that's a major plot point. We can't if that was almost like background thing and something that happened, then yes, okay, we don't have to pay too much attention for it. But it's a huge part of the point, and it doesn't make any. It's something that we really should know why he's doing this thing. It's part of the major plot point. We can't just go it's patriarchal because we haven't painted too clear a picture why this would happen. Especially he had the opportunity to do this before, right? When his brother goes to, if he wanted to do it, he should have done it then. He could have done it then. When his brother had the idea of to show how apologetic we are, let me marry. Oh, he could have gone, you know what? I'm really into this, babe. Let me marry. I don't know. I don't buy that one anyway. But Elizabeth, Otas, I don't.
Okay, so I wanted to push. See, I wasn't going to do any pushback because I didn't have anything to say. But now that Rotimi has spoken for the rest of the world, I'm going to have to push back Rotimi. So first, you said you are not the target audience. You showed it to your mom. I promise you, the Yoruba people were not even the target audience, because if they were the target audience, this movie would have gotten accent right, pronunciation right. As in, Mike Afolarin's character kept calling Egba as Egba. And I had to rewind to know that you mean jury and pronouncing it as an entire Yoruba tribe. Like, if it was for Yoruba people, this film has already failed on that front. If you call two people right now and say, watch House of God, watch Old Basharonga, and ask them which one would they prefer, they will tell you Basharonga. Which brings me into this. You said for this movie cost money. It costs. I mean, no. It's supposed to cost money to be able to get some things right. Dude, did you watch the old Bachelor? If you watch it right now, even the bad quality, bad frame, bad everything, you would see that all of the things we are complaining on this call, especially around the story and the plot holes, you will not find it there. What money again do you need now? At least for the plot holes, really, really. Are you going to take a mint 1,000 naira note and use it to block the hole? Some things are not just money. I mean, I get that you really want to defend it, but please, some things are not money. And then too, you said something about, oh, maybe she didn't understand, maybe your Otas didn't understand something, is because, this is how normal movies are. They're not supposed to. That's not true. That is not true. If this movie was even supposed to be a short movie, and they told the story in 20 minutes, I'm sure the idea that some things, when you set things up, the point is this film was not setting things up, was not doing a good job. There are lots of illiter around, though, especially that Benga Titiloye's character, I think Majogbe, the king, that he didn't like the way he dressed. And then there was a part in that thing that where he said, Already meaning my friend is this person. Let's peace reign. Again, that was super confusing. Now, if you don't know the original story, you will know what led to that. But the point is, nobody has to know the original story. Nobody should have to have a backstory. Nobody should have to know the history of Gar. People should be watching this film as this is my first time watching Gar, and I understand right now within the 90 minutes within what you are going to show me. I shouldn't have to open Wikipedia to get it. That line makes no sense. Somebody says, "Oh, I don't like the way you dressed. Even my slaves don't dress the way you dress. Look at how you are dressed. You embarrassed me." And the next thing you say, "But he's my friend. Let's peace reign." And I'm like, "He's your friend? Where'd that line come out from?" And the next thing is like, go and die, go and die. And then the guy went to go and die. It's some things are illogical and it has nothing to do with people explaining. So expecting that we should know, someone said, "Oh, let's sacrifice. You don't care what I have to do, right?" He kept quiet. And we don't even know how it happened. And how do people know that when he died and it was the reason? If you watch the old film, let's even forget, maybe I shouldn't even refer to that. But the point is in films, things have to make sense within the world you've built, within the set pieces that you have put in place, within the plot lines, within the storylines. Things have to make sense. I shouldn't be having to think to myself like, "Oh, I think I know what happened," because I'm a Nollywood watcher. And that's why I said that at this point, if I said I'm not the target audience, I am not the target of the audience, because if I should watch this the way I would have watched any other Yoruba epic film, I would tear this film apart even more than this. And that's why I felt like maybe it is for the Oyinbo white, for white gays, or for a broader appeal and approach, so that people who don't even know backstories can decide to fill in the gap and then enjoy it without those of us who can be pedantic about these things. And so you're saying that you're not the target audience. If it's by that one, old people will watch anything. No, don't even put that. My grandma, she probably watch and be cackling. Old people watch anything, and that is not a yardstick for you to say you're not the target audience.
All right, thanks for this, but as Atas, is this also pushback for Rotimi, or is this a different pushback?
Yeah, it's for Rotimi. So I think, and Elizabeth already said most of it, so I'm not going to linger. But I think saying that you're not the primary audience as a reason for not telling a good story is just lazy and creates an out for a lot of lazy storytelling. Because while you might have a primary audience, when you're telling a story at a global level, you do have to do some level of bridging the gap. There's a reason why Nigerians in particular are so big on Indian movies and Asian movies, even when they're telling stories that are not necessarily um, native to us. And it's because even when they're telling historical things, they do just a little bit of setting it up so you understand and have a basic idea, at least for that hour and a half, the story that you're being told. There's just always a bridge to be gapped. And then as far as Zainab, whatever the reason for putting her in it, whether it's to establish more motivation for Bashar, is done so badly, because he goes from "why do I need to prove myself to you" to "she's my wife," and there's no why. And his only reason is because his wives want to beat her, and it's just absurd.
All right, thanks, Atas. Inka, is this also pushback for Rotimi?
I will let Rotimi have peace because he has already been attacked. No. Okay.
All right.
No, that doesn't mean that my something is for Rotimi. What I wanted to say, it's up. It was. I'll move on from that. Is the idea that somebody said that okay, it is a parliamentary system. Now, I would say why I'm going to push back, because my idea of parliamentary system now, I'm a modern person, is that in some ways there is some sort of election, even if we go back to the parliamentary system of England. By this time, England, there was some sort of voting, some sort of regular common man. Well, I won't say regular. Most of the population couldn't vote, but there was some sort of voting. The Oyomesi, those people inherited those seats. It passed down through a specific line. Sometimes some of those seats passed down through a specific line. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a parliamentary system. I mean, sure, is it check and balances? Sure, check and balances is there. But that don't mean that that don't mean that the people were voting for those people. I mean, sure, every royal definitely have to command to their people, because when the public goes crazy, there's more of the public than there is you. Sure, that happens, but I don't get how people keep calling the parliamentary system. I'm sorry, that's just a personal thing. Whenever I read that reading, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. You're just trying to prove to the white people that you're like the white people, but it's not. Even the white people didn't even have that sometimes. So that's my pushback. And my pushback also is that yes, sure, it might take time and energy and money, but there are some things that doesn't necessarily take too much time. You know, like learning how to shoot something to be more engaging, especially if you're going to go shoot it. That's my pushback for now.
All right, thanks, Oyinka. Yeah, I to be honest, I don't even, in terms of that time thing, I don't actually care. When I say, I don't mean it to be cold, how much time or money it takes. All I'm telling you about is what I feel after I watch the movie. I don't care whether you broke your head to doing it. I don't care whether you did it on a whim, woke up one day. I can only tell you because, number one, I'm not involved in it. I can't be doing BTS for every movie to go, oh, it took this time. I don't care. I can't be doing all of that. All I can tell you is like, hey, this is what I felt when I watched your movie. You can either take it or you leave it. It's fine. I can't be doing somebody's time. Which kind of mathematics is that? I beg. All right, okay. Let's go into our summaries. Not even much change. Do you want to tell us, give us your summary for House of God?
Okay, my summary is that watching this House of God, I kind of feel like what I've heard, I really like the Fumila Ransom Kuti. I kind of like prefer Fumila Ransom Kuti to this in a way because I think because I like the story. Maybe I like the story, but I think both lacked better writing. Yes, maybe because they were being like a narration kind of thing. Maybe that's why the writing was that was why the writing dragged. But I just feel like there could have been better writing and from the person who wrote it, being one of our best writers, could be way better than that. But this movie, I would recommend it actually. It's not that bad. It's palatable. I mean, it's kind of enjoyable for most people. I know it will be enjoyable for most people. I've seen people talk really well about it. Yes, they fuck with it. Pardon my French. So I'll kind of recommend it to people to watch. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Nollywood must change. Ainka, do you want to give us your summary?
Yes. This is an okay movie, an okay popcorn movie, So it's been a while. On a Sunday night, or any night or any day that you're free and you want to watch something, put it on. Give it 30 minutes. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you can change it. There are millions and millions of movies and TV shows in the world. You decide whether it's good for you or not. I can't tell you your taste. Well, that's it.
All right, thanks, Ainka. Good to have you back. Elizabeth, do you want to give us your summary?
Yes. Before I give my summary, I want to say that I love Oyinka so much because anytime she goes with this, oh, if you like, watch it. If you like, don't watch it. It's not my business. But really, I want to do an Oyinka. I want to pull an Oyinka. Yeah, if you like, watch it. Not my business. But really, I personally think that this is one of Bab's better done film. I know that Nollywood Must Change said, Familiar Ransom Kuti, it is possible. But that one, I will not agree. But I thought this one had a story. There are holes here and there. Not exactly anything to do with I mean, I really didn't like the protagonist like that. It was just linear. I wish it was better. But there was effort in here. I thought she had good eye for. I like the use of silhouette, colors. I thought it was nicely done. So if you don't dip it, like if you if you don't dip it really, and it helps too if you don't even know the story. So if you don't dip it, you know it's fast. I find it fascinating, at least the rendition, the fact that she decided to go with a guy that was just very mean rather than the trickster who could. I thought that was different. I mean, getting a different take to this, I thought was all right. So will I ask? Will I recommend? I mean, really, watch it though. You too, if you Sunday evening you don't have anything to do with yourself and there's House of God, I think you know it won't be a total waste of your time. It's okay.
All right. Thanks, Elizabeth. Uh, Atas, do you want to give us your summary?
Sure. So this was just confusing for me. Um, I thought there were just a lot of things that we wasted time on that ended up being unnecessary, like a T storyline. There's no need to go into the story any deeper, but I thought there were a lot of things I wasted time on that made this movie much longer than it needed to be, and I didn't like the story. I didn't think it was coherently told. It left too many questions for me. And so I wouldn't watch it again and I wouldn't recommend it. And I'm not even interested in researching the real story. So there's that.
All right. Thanks, Atas. All right, Emmanuel, do you want to give us your summary of House of God? Is Emmanuel still there? If not, Sir Balo, do you want to give us your summary?
Yeah, yeah, I'm there.
Okay, Emmanuel,
Yeah, the
give us
thing
your
is,
summary. Give us your summary.
yeah, the thing is, I've heard what some persons have said. It's nice. Like I said, I'm very big on history and culture, so it's beautiful when Nollywood filmmakers come with epic. But I'm still wondering, and I'm still, I guess, this feeling in me, like, what if this epic thing we just get bored at the end of the day? Like, you see, when some Nollywood filmmakers probably aspiring on persons who are in the game already, and they see like, oh, this person came up with Jagun Jagun, this person was successful with Fumla and Somkoti, and now House of God. What are the other epics, in line that would still grace our screen? And do we just are we going to welcome it? Are we going to embrace it? Is it just going to be like we are bored, or it's the telltale thing that we're tired of hearing all the while? So irrespective of the feeling and what the future would bring, I would say it's a good watch. I enjoyed House of God. I enjoyed House of God in as much we've bantered on the good and the bad. I enjoyed watching it, and I would recommend it to someone to watch it. Like someone has said, Sunday evening or a weekend, add to your bucket list of movies. It's nice. It's nice, irrespective of the odds. It's good.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Emmanuel. Sir Balo, do you want to give us your summary? If Sir Balo is there to sing.
Okay. Um, it's an okay movie, pretty much. I'm just kind of disappointed in terms of some of the historical context that I've talked about. As someone who is from Ibadan, and I also sort of have an idea of, quite a number of these things, from historical sources. I expect the crew to like sort of like do better, because I actually think that when we tell historical epics like this, there's a responsibility to to posterity to sort of like ensure the accuracy, how we present the details, and it's also a kind of we bringing back those times and all that, and so that posterity are watching it and they still are able to have an idea of what happened then. But I'm looking at it 10 years down the line, 20 years, 30, 50 years. I mean, if people are watching this movie again, will they be able to get a sense of what actually transpired, in those ancient times? I don't think so. But it doesn't take away the fact that it's an enjoyable watch. The cast actually puts up, a very fantastic performance, and yeah, I recommend it. Just something okay for the weekend to chill and all that. Yeah, that's my summary.
All right. No, thanks. I want to read Ade's summary. It seems she says it's my favorite Bat film because of the story from collision cause Man of God FRK to Ga. The bar is very low though. which I think I agree with. All right. Dawn, do you want to give us your summary of House of God?
Yeah, so for me, I think um was not a bad watch. Not a bad watch, but I would have loved it to be a series. And that's just like I said, just from reading the Wikipedia story, there's a lot to talk about. Whether when he was a warrior, and even going through, killing all the people that he killed. A lot of time passed, and House of Gas, a series, I mean, could have been some sort of Viking series that we have, that we watch, and I really love Vikings. So it had a lot of potential to be much more, but it was cramped into just this series. I think we need to have more nuanced characters. Um, we have we have had a lot of simple, direct, straightforward characters, but I think we need more complex characters that make us think more at the end of the movie. Where you watch a movie and you're like, wow, what did I just watch? I'm not sure I've really gotten that from a lot of Nigerian films, but I hope we'll get there. So that's just it for me.
Okay. Thanks, Dawn. Rotimi, do you want to give us your summary?
Yeah. I think House of Guy is one of the better like Yoruba epics as per based on Yoruba epics that have been done in this recent streaming era. It will probably rank in either the top 5 to top 3, most likely. I think Femi Branch, this was a great performance from Femi Branch. I think most likely Lexia is going to be nominated as best actor. I even think this movie most likely would nominated as one of the best movies, either this for or Funke Rasamkuti for Bolanle Austen-Peters as best director, most likely for next year when they're doing their award season. I think that the theme of the movie, which I think is kind of what stands out to me, is above everything else. Even with all the things, the nitpicks I have, I think that the theme about power, about the misuse of power, and when you have the misuse of power stands out for me. And the things that, like, in spite of all the way the story was executed, I think that theme still stands out, and I appreciate that. At least I can see that the theme about the movie still talks about power, and I think that's good. That at least and it's possible because we're adapting stories from our past. And like I said, adaptation, it's not the actual, I don't think it's a correct historical biopic. I think it's more of an adaptation. And I think, like, I look at the industry, the way the industry currently is as it is, not necessarily like I have a higher threshold for what my filmmaking and my storytelling should look like. But I appreciate what is being done right now based on the level of filmmaking, based on the level of resources. And I appreciate it. And I think that everybody should just try. There's always room for improvement. That's all. Yeah, that's my summary.
All right. Thanks for writing me. Mrs. C?
My summary for House of God is it wasn't for me. I did not enjoy that, and
Okay. Yeah, for me, I found this a headache too. I felt like I was trying to pay attention to this more than I was watching it. And it's not because it's a subtitle movie. I've seen some of my favorite movies are subtitle movies. I hated the editing in this. Um, I thought the main character was very flat and uninteresting, but sort of played kind of okay. So there was not a lot for me to enjoy. And I can say all of that and say I still think this might be the best epic. It's just the best executed epic because I still think Annie Kulakba was very bad because of how it falls in the second half. If you took half of Annie Kulakba, that would be maybe one of the better. It would be the best movie, but that second half is just so bad. And that's the only thing. But yes, I think the bar is pretty low. This is both my favorite, or I should say my least bad BAP and epic movie coming from modern new Nollywood. So yeah, that's my summary. I hope not to watch this again, to be honest. All right. Next week, I don't know what we'll be talking about next week. We'll have a look. I'll have a look at this movie that dropped on Prime on Friday. See if Tony Turns is a Trino movie, and we might discuss that next week. But thanks everybody for coming and joining and speaking and listening and contributing, especially on a day like BBN Day. Always appreciated. We'll see you next week. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed listening and would like to join live, just follow us on Twitter at Iroko Critic and join us every Sunday 6 p.m. West African time on our spaces.